Welcome to Prickly Peach, a podcast where we untangle the roots of real connection and nurture a space for raw, honest, beautifully messy conversation. I'm Thao Nguyen, a sociologist, community builder, and your host here in the garden. Welcome to Prickly Peach. I have been such a fan and you have been doing wonderful work in the city. So it's such an honor to be able to sit here and talk to you. For people who don't know you yet, tell us a little bit about who Stax is.
Yeah, my name is Stax. I am a talent manager and creative entrepreneur, born and raised in the city of Boston. I have been in the music industry, in the art space for, I'd say, most of my life. I started off as an artist, actually, and I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life. And then I had a very hard pivot during college, went to Berklee College of Music, and I flipped over into the business side and got really passionate about fostering other people's visions. And so from that point, I got into management, and then I founded my own management company because I felt the entrepreneurial spirit. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to work for anybody. And I just had these big visions in my head. So I started my own company. And then I found this new passion for Boston as well. I've been here all my life, but it wasn't until 1 or 2 or 3 years ago now that I really started to see that there was a scene here and that it was worth investing into.
Definitely. Would love to delve deeper into that after. To get things started, let's start with some icebreakers.
Let's go.
Do you have a favorite matcha order?
Ooh. Okay, so I'm big on bubble tea. That's my go-to. If it's going to be matcha, it's got to be a bubble tea. I have 3 flavors.
Yeah.
It's got to be taro, Thai tea, and then green tea. Green tea is the classic.
I love that, yeah. Oh, have you ever blacked out?
I have, but it wasn't in college, actually. And it wasn't at a party either. So, because I went to Berklee, it's not really a party college. Nobody thinks, oh, party colleges in Boston, Berklee's not on that list. If anything, the Berklee students try to find where the party scenes are, and they're usually on other campuses or in somebody else's basement who goes to a different school. So I went to a few when I was a sophomore, because freshman year it was COVID. So I was in my house the entire year.
How did that impact you actually?
The problem is I didn't have the personal skills. I didn't equip the personal skills yet to be okay during that period. Had I developed them, I probably would have been fine. But I still had insecurity issues. I developed really bad FOMO. To the point where I would literally feel I don't know what else to describe it as besides heart palpitations or heartburns. When I would see that I wasn't included, my body had a physical reaction to that. And I wasn't comfortable with myself. I think when the world shut down, it forced everybody to look inward. Yeah. You zeroed out all the distractions, and everybody had to look inward and look in the mirror and be like, yo, am I okay? And because you only were with yourself and your loved ones, whoever you lived with, you had no choice but to figure out, answer the question of am I okay with just myself? And truthfully, I wasn't. I had to sit with that. It wasn't until sophomore year, actually, halfway through college, that I fully sat with myself, started reading self-awareness books, and was oh, okay, this is why I'm like this and why I have this habit in my childhood, and making all these different connections.
I had a very similar experience during that, I think 2020. Then I also had to go through a lot of internal process of figuring who I was. I was going through a very hard time emotionally as well. It brought out the worst in me.
How did you get to that point where you could? What was your process like?
Where I could
love yourself and fully see yourself?
I didn't get to that point in the first year. I think only recently, now that I have just turned 30. And I know what my boundaries are, what my limits are. But it took a long time. And that process involved me having to go through a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of relationships not working out, and then having to reevaluate. And I went through major depressions, maybe every year or two, because I just put myself to the extreme, which I love doing, but also it has the pros and cons. And I don't recommend anybody doing it if that's not their cup of tea. But just having the lowest of the low in my life, I had to learn about myself and how to get out of those modes. And also I have been moving around a lot, and Boston is home to me at the moment. Even though I wasn't born here, I only moved here for school. But I have lived here for like roughly maybe 4 years. So it's like the longest I have lived somewhere. So like having a support system helps with that as well, like finding your own people. There's a lot of like unique things about my personality that it has taken me a little bit longer to find like my people, my community. It's not a singular group either. It's like getting support from different people and like be able to have the means and the knowledge and the privilege to be able to do the things that I love and feel confident in myself.
Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely a process.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for doing the work and just experimenting and doing the work that's required to find your people. Like a lot of people get discouraged when, you know, they make that effort to meet that person or like go into that scene or go into that community and they feel rejection and then they take that and they assume that that's the rest of the world. Like, oh, I guess the world hates me because these people didn't embrace me. And especially in Boston. I mean, this is a whole other topic, but, you know, I'm sure you've seen like the misconception or just the stereotype of Boston being so cliquey. And a lot of that is valid for sure. A lot of places are cliquey. That's going to exist everywhere. But the problem is like people experience that cliquiness one time and it takes one time for them to like have an entirely negative image on the city as a whole. When it's like, if you just continue to find your people as you've been doing, like, you will find them and you'll find different communities too that, you know, tap into a specific part of your personality. Maybe another one does. So that's
exactly
beautiful.
And that's what I love about what you said is that Boston is cliquey, but like it's like everywhere else. I think that's just like human nature. Like we love to exist in groups. Yeah, it's
well,
like
sociology.
Yes. That's my background. That's literally what we do all day is like analyzing group behaviors.
Yeah.
Which is like different than psychology when it's just like an individual person's like behavior. And we want to exist in packs. That's just like human nature. But sometimes it's just hard to find those people that like match your vibe, especially how diverse like Boston is or how diverse America is. It just gonna take a little longer because it's not homogeneous. It's not a singular identity or a singular kind of like race, ethnicity. Like where I grew up, which is in Vietnam, like everybody looks the same. Everybody talks almost the same, except like when you go to different regions of Vietnam, for example. But yeah, I know we are at Boston common now, but like if we go to like, I know Austin, then a lot of like students, for example, if you go to Somerville, there's like a different type of people. If you go to Dorchester, like different people live in different areas.
You know your Boston. Yeah.
I do. There's just so many different groups that exist in Boston. And if you are unique and special, which we all are, it's just going to take a little longer to find those people that match your vibe. And and the more unique you are, it's just the harder it's going to be. And I think, and it's completely okay. Like
that's what
makes
impossible.
And that's what makes you special is by you being unique.
Right. And if you don't find it, then rather than seeing that as like a dang, like I don't fit in anywhere, that should be something that inspires you to be like, okay, well, let me create that space. Let me foster that community. So then when I come across other people who are similar, because you're never one of one. You could be the most niche. You could be the most weird, like whatever word you want to use. Like even if you feel you are the most strange human on earth, like I'm of the belief that there's at least one other person who can connect with you and resonate with you, even on the strangest level. And so that's also on you to see that opportunity to foster those spaces if it hasn't already been created.
Let's get to the part where we talk about your professional life.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning. How did music become your path? As you mentioned earlier, you went to Berkeley College. Like, how did you get there?
So I have to give props to my mom for exposing me to so many different spaces when I was younger. She put me in like so many different after school programs, different types of communities, different types of sports like gymnastics, dance, music lessons. I took violin lessons at one point. I joined Boston Children's Chorus. That's where I like learned music theory. And that was the first place I was like taught the transformative power of music. It was a true community. Being in that program made me realize like the role that arts play in being a catalyst for social change. That was literally their mission statement at one point. It continues to be embedded in my brain. So I did that for a large part of my life. And then I had a moment when I was younger, I rapped. I was in this camp called Be Safe. and my rapper name was Shanty Stax.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually kind of where Stax comes from. And that was my first time being on stage like by myself, and it was a big deal. Like it wasn't, looking back now, like the bars weren't crazy at all. Like I think I have one on my phone too. Like it's like the most amateur shit ever, but people loved it. I was able to create such a community around that. And so that was also one of the first times I realized, like, oh, like I can use music to make people feel to a great degree. Like I can provide entertainment and entertain people and fulfill with joy. And then in 2018, so I'm like 17 by this point, Shanty Stax era was like, I want to say around 12 or something like that, middle school era. Yeah, I wasn't serious about all that. Like it was literally just for the talent show. And every year when it would come up, people be like, oh my God, yo, Shanty Stax, like, are you gonna do it again this year? And then, yeah, I didn't take it serious. Like, I didn't consider myself an artist at that point. The first time I did was summer of 2018, where I was like, you know, I've been singing in a choir. What if I took this serious and became like a professional recording, performing artist? And so I started to do shows all over Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island. And I did a lot of like Cape Verdean music mixed with American music, because I wanted to do this thing where like I could be a beacon of light for Cape Verdean Americans, and I wanted to get to know my culture better. So I used music as, you know, the avenue for that. And like I said, like I did that for 5 years straight, and I applied to Berkeley thinking that that was going to be, you know, the rest of my life. And then things took a literal 180.
What do you mean by it took a literal 180? What happened after that?
I didn't want to be an artist anymore. The thing that I was going to do for the rest of my life, I had very big goals and I was very serious about it. I would promote all the time. When I tell you, like, people would notice I was on every flyer, like specifically for Cape Verdean music. I was on every flyer, if not every other flyer. People took me under their wing. Like, people really championed me, and I'm grateful for that era.
You were famous from a young age.
Little bit, locally though. I wasn't doing anything too crazy, but I'm sure if I continued, and I've thought about this, like, I think if I continued with the music thing, I probably would have been able to make it far, at least within the Cape Verdean market. You know, I had the privilege of performing, like, the celebrities that we have in American culture, we have equivalents in Cape Verdean music, and like I was on the same stages with them. I sang with a lot of them, like, you know, like it still blows my mind that I sang with Jill, who's like basically Michael Jackson, but like our Michael Jackson. Like, you know, like I was honored. Everything that I was able to do and achieve was such an honor. But I felt something shift in my spirit, that halfway point while I was at Berkeley, and I just didn't, it was a God moment. That's the only way that I can ever explain it. It was during that time when I was sitting with myself, reading these books and you know, having the best existential crisis ever and realizing, like, I don't think my purpose is on stage. I think I'm supposed to be behind the scenes. And I think that spotlight that I've been in is actually for somebody else. And that took a lot of ego death, like we were saying earlier. Like, my ego had to die and be like, you know what? Let me leave that space for somebody else who could do far more impactful work. Like, I fully believe there are people who are like assigned to be artists. Not that I believe in destiny per se, but for example, any of the like legacy acts that we can think of. I mean, D'Angelo just passed. There are certain people who become artists in this lifetime, or like a Michael Jackson. He was supposed to transmute his message, was supposed to be through music. And there are other people who have more powerful ways to express their messages and their values. And for me, I'm already seeing it in real time. Ever since I made that shift, I'm having so much more impact than I ever was before. I'm able to literally like speak light in a different way. And that doesn't mean I've left music for good, but the way I'm able to do it now through management, through connecting with people, through speaking, just my words, through spoken word, like I am seeing the impact of that. And I don't think I would be able to achieve the same level if I was doing this through music. And also, there's levels to everything, and I wasn't bad, but I wasn't, you know, like undeniable. You feel me? I can be in the back, I can hold a tune, but you know, like I went to Berkeley and I realized like there are levels to this, and I'm not meant to do that. It takes me 2 seconds to hear somebody and hear like, you're supposed to do this. I see a big difference between being talented and being gifted. I think I had some talent, but I wasn't gifted. The people who are gifted that's like a God-given thing. You need to do that. You need to run with that. I had to step back and realize, you know what? This isn't my gift.
Yeah.
I'm now walking in my gift, and I'm blessed to be able to say that.
I would love to kind of delve deeper into that. Was there any guilt in that process of like, okay, I made it as an artist and then you switched to become a talent manager or being behind the scenes? Like, was there any guilt in terms of you having to live a career that you thought you were meant to have?
Oh, wow. These are different questions from what I originally saw. This is good. I did, to be honest. And I didn't feel it for like myself. It wasn't like inner guilt. It was guilt from the external response. I mean, to this day, I feel a little guilt. There are still so many people who ask me like when I'm gonna sing again. When is, are you still performing? I think I got a DM sometime this week or early last week, somebody asking like, you not performing anymore? I let people know like, hey, I'm transitioning. I'm not really doing music anymore. And I still like, I'm not as active in the Cape Verdean scene, not nearly as much as I used to be, but like I'm still a supporter.
I know that after Berkeley, you went to LA. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey of like moving to LA and then what happens after that?
Yeah, so I was there the summer right before my last semester, and it was through this fellowship program that I was so blessed to receive. They basically like fund your trip to LA or your internship in LA. And so while I was there, I think I did like 3 internships, which is not at all what students were supposed to do. You're supposed to do 1, but I was just so ambitious. Like I was always doing multiple things at the same time, just like I'm doing now. So a lot has not changed, but I did a lot of internships out there. I was there for like I'd say a month and a half, and so much learning, so many shocks, like on so many different levels, even to just, getting used to seeing celebrities walking around. Like I'm from Dorchester. I'm not used to freaking seeing Snoop Dogg freaking cross the street right in front of me with no type of security. It felt very, very different from home, and just being in the spaces that I had always wanted to be in, the music industry, like, hearing the decision makers and meeting the people and, like very active while I was there. I kept myself very, very busy. The first night I almost died. I literally thought it was my last day on earth. Less than 24 hours in LA, and that's like a whole other story. But I learned a lot. I saw a lot. And I think the biggest takeaway was that Boston was worth staying in. And then 2, that I could create something of my own. And I was like, you know what? The delusional thing. Let me stay in Boston, which is not a major industry hub at all. And let me, straight out of college, start my own company. I'm just going to do it.
I think that's another thing that I can also relate to. Because I also started my own company and I also had to start somewhere. And also I'm not a technical person. So it's not like I can just build an app and then like have it be on the app store the next day. I need to like build a team, have people like trust me and like invest in my vision, which I think there's a lot of things that you could relate to as like a boutique business owner. It's not easy.
That part, getting people to believe in you on like yes, emotional level, but the capital too, man.
I can imagine that to become who you are today, there were things that you had to grieve. Like, what did that look like for you?
That's a massive question. I don't even know where to start. I had to definitely grieve my ego for sure. So when I say ego, I mean my level of understanding. That is, if there was anything that I was confident in my understanding of self. At one point, I was so sure about my understanding of the world. And the problem is when I started to unravel myself, I had to let that part of myself go. I had to be like, oh, actually, you don't know. For once in your life, you're realizing that you don't know nearly as much as you thought you did, especially about yourself. I had to grieve my sense of understanding, especially of self. I think that was the first thing I had to let go of. And then, in the process, people. I think as of late, it's been, losing certain people in my life that I thought were supposed to be a part of the journey. And just continually refining my understanding of like, okay, who should I be surrounded by? Who is my community?
Let's talk about grace. What kind of grace did you have to give yourself to keep going, especially when things didn't go as planned?
Yeah, I had to forgive myself for the mistakes I've made, which I'm still doing. I still do that actively. I will recollect the moments where I wasn't the best person. I wasn't the best human. And I have to remind myself like, hey, like, actually, oh my God, recently I messed up. I made a mistake. I hurt somebody that I didn't mean to. And I felt it in the moment. I think my awareness has become like way stronger, because before I would push off the guilt or the shame, which is not great. Like, I wasn't holding myself accountable. Now, like, and because I was aware that I did that before, I was like, okay, now moving forward, not that I don't expect myself to not mess up, but when I need to like nip it in the bud right away. And so I did that. I took accountability, and it sucks. I hate doing that. The biggest grace I could ever give myself is forgiveness, and being, as uncomfortable as it is sometimes, being okay with knowing that I'm not perfect. I sit with it. I learn from it. The only thing I could do is just try to be better. Always continually trying to be better than before, at least 1% better today than I was yesterday.
I think that's part of growth. If you are just growing even 1% every day, but after like 10 days, like 100 days, you could become a different person. I think like having that awareness and having the ability to accept that you're not perfect and like be comfortable with that is definitely like a very mature thing to do. So what does growth look like for you in your career and also in your personal life?
In my personal life right now, I'm growing a lot as a person, and I'm growing my understanding of myself still. Like, I'm still on that journey. I'm growing my relationship with God and better understanding my spirituality. I still get confused by myself in my own mind. I think about a lot of things. So that's been my biggest priority, like figuring out what balance looks like. Everybody talks about like what your balance is, how balanced is your life. I'm still figuring that out. I wouldn't say it's balanced at all in terms of like, you know, the personal, the business, making sure like I'm taking care of both the human and the entrepreneur. Like, I'm still figuring that out. On the business side, I'm figuring that out too. I'm still learning about myself as a manager, what works and what doesn't, you know. So it's all good growth. It's the best kind of growth because it leads to a heightened wisdom and understanding, which I'm always seeking.
I think it's a powerful and like a beautiful thing to like be able to accept and like admit to yourself that like you are just constantly learning, constantly growing. You haven't gotten it figured out yet. And I think like that takes a lot of courage to just be able to like accept that about yourself, because like we all have an ego and we all have like these understandings or these like ideas about ourselves, and things just don't go our way, and I could get shut down, I could get disappointed. But that's like the beauty in the process of like going through the pain, the grief, the guilt, and then like having the grace for yourself and tell yourself that like everything is gonna be okay eventually. It may not be okay right now. And it's all about the journey.
It's tough to love the entire process. So actually a lot of people, it's funny that, do you feel like you love like the preparation and the process more than the product, like the end product?
I think,
because I feel like for a lot of people it's the other way. You're so interesting. Really? All of these things are like the flip of what's expected. But it's also like a cultural difference too, which is so fire to me. Because I find that a lot of people like strive for the end product. They love when everything is finished and said and done. But because the process is ugly. That's the ugliest part. It's the process of becoming, especially even when it just comes to our lives. I mean, especially in America, like everybody wants to skip to the part where, you know, they got the house, they got the kids and the nice family home and the success. Like everybody is striving. They're all striving toward the end goal where everything is picture perfect. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I think that's also where like you learn the most about yourself. Not from, at least to me, like I don't learn about myself as much when like the product is out and everybody is like giving me their opinions. I mean, I could learn from like the criticism, the feedback and all of that, but I feel like where I learn most about myself, that is through like the reflecting of who I am, what am I doing, why am I doing it this way, when I'm going through a process, rather than when I see like the video perfect product at the end of the day, where it's like the colors look perfect, the lighting looks perfect, like and it's all polished. Because I think that doesn't show like the nuances of life that a lot of people go through, and it's like all the ups and downs that kind of like make who I am, not just like that final version that you see me today, for example. It's like it's all the lessons that I had to learn, all the pains, all the heartbreaks, all the grieving, or the guilt that I had to be able to finally like have the grace for myself and grow into the person that I am today.
That's so rare. Please hold on to that. That's so rare. But I feel like social media also kind of ruined us having that mindset. Like, you know, when that platform has become a space where people usually show the pretty moments, the high moments, the accolades, the high achieving moments. I think it's starting to break for sure. Like, I think Talk definitely came in and was the complete opposite of what social media has typically been used for, and it kind of helped open it up to help people realize, like, hey, like, actually this is just capturing your life, like all of it, the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
Yeah. So next, we will transition to talking about Boston. Stax, since you grew up here, let's talk about Boston. Yeah. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about Boston, especially in the creative scene?
I think one of the biggest ones for sure is that it's not possible to pursue a career here as a creative, especially as an artist. And that's why we've had so many artists leave. People see that and it's like, well, yeah, they've left Boston because it's not possible in Boston. And to that, I say times have changed. I think at one point, especially, I'm going to focus on the music industry because that's where my expertise is. But there was a point in time where the way that the industry was structured, you had to be in the major hubs where the labels were, because it was only ever possible to pursue a career if you were attached to a label. But now with the rise of independent artists and you know, being independent in the music industry and actually being able to build something sustainable without needing a label, it's just completely different. You can make it from anywhere. You can make it from the middle of nowhere. It all depends on like what community you have around you, and you know, the whole concept of having like 1,000 true fans or 100 true fans versus 1 million. Like, you don't really need as much anymore to have a sustainable career in music. And so I think it's just a very different playing field. It's very much possible. I also don't promote artists staying forever. Like, you don't have to stay forever. But when you do leave, do you come back? Is the question I always ask. When you have opportunities to claim your hometown and claim home, do you take that opportunity to shed light on your city?
Another question, and I'm sure a lot of people who have moved here either for work, from school, or for different reasons, for anybody who is trying to find communities here in Boston, especially in the creative spaces and either in music or in a different scene, what kind of advice would you give?
Research. Like, it's not going to find you. If you are trying to find it, then like you need to do exactly that. Put in the effort. I consider myself a resource. You know, I started a whole Discord. There's a little over 400 people in that server now. And I make it a point on a weekly, pretty much daily basis at this point to update it with events, local events that are happening, live shows from other artists, networking events, even internship opportunities, volunteer opportunities, grants have been put in there. So really just like showing people, hey, this is everything that's going on in Boston. I don't ever want to hear moving forward, oh, there's nothing to do in Boston. Boston got no motion. Like, I couldn't have made it easier. So really, anybody who considers themselves creative is welcome to join.
3 words. What has it been like being you in the music industry? 3 words without any explanation.
What is it like being me in the industry in 3 words? This is hard. Unorthodox, misunderstood. I'll say present.
Yeah,
unorthodox, misunderstood, and present.
I love that. Let's talk about the future. Throughout this conversation, we have talked a lot about guilt, grief, and grace. Which part of that equation are you sitting with today?
I love this question. Oh, hi, squirrel. A little close there. Today, I'm sitting with grace, for sure. And continually, not just giving grace to myself, but giving grace to others, giving grace to the process.
What are some local artists or organizations that you want to spotlight?
I gotta pull out the phone for this one. It's so, when I tell you there's so many, so this is not everybody. But if you are someone who's like trying to get a pulse on like who are the people and the places and the platforms who are doing significant work in the city, specifically within the arts, these are some folks that I would highly recommend researching and following along. Of course, Beat the Odds. I gotta start with Beat the Odds. And to continue on that nonprofit track, 607 Peak, Teen Empowerment, The Record Co., Zoomix. Also want to shout out Mass Creative, Sound Lab, BAMS Fest, Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, Dorchester Art Project, Enjoy the Thrill, Put in Work, Mass Cultural Council, Ujima Project, Illuminous, Assets for Artists, Minds with Purpose, The Loop Lab, Beats Rhymes Life, Boston While Black, Hipstery, Bridgeside, and so much more. There's literally so much more, but that's off the dome ski. That's what we got. And then in terms of artists, I was just talking to Paul Willis yesterday. He was our first special guest on Beantown Talks. Minefield of knowledge, perspective, information, incredible hip-hop teaching artist, and someone who's like really about community. And then just some other ones, Key, Clark D, Isha, Truth, C4, Amanda Shea, Hawes, Miles Perry, Latrell James, and literally like countless.
Stax, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here and having this conversation with me. And as I was reflecting on what you said about grace, I also have realized that like now that it has been such a journey for me to be who I am, I have changed, I have grown, and I have given myself the grace to be who I am today. So thank you for having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me.
This was so beautiful. It's such a beautiful day as well.
Fact.
Yeah.
Facts. The weather really came through.